Hi, today we're going to learn how to reflect any object or element using the Reflect tool. So the Reflect tool is under the Rotate tool normally. If you want to access it, then you can either long press or right click and you'll see that you get these window coming out. You can even pull out the whole window by holding on this triangle over there. Just click on it, then you can drag this anywhere you want. Can change the orientation and bring it aside with the other tool. The Reflect tool is meant to reflect any object either over the x-axis or the y-axis, in other words vertically or horizontally. But honestly, I actually use the properties panel. It's a lot easier. You have a small icon right over there and you can just very easily reflect it. Obviously you can't see a difference because it's a rectangle. You can reflect it vertically or horizontally. If you don't have the properties panel, you can go to Windows and choose properties from there. But there are a few more options that you can do using the Reflect tool. So today we have this cute little duck as our example. You could reflect objects using the regular selection tool. Simply click on it and you hold on one of the sides and just put it right over. And as you can see, it will reflect there. Problem is that you can't really tell how big it is, if it's probably the same size or not. You could always press the Shift key. That will change the orientation of the reflection, so you can see it turns there, and that will keep the proportions but not the size. As you can see, that it does change the size there. So you can either choose from the properties panel this icon here, or otherwise use the Rotate tool. So let's start. To select an object or to rotate it with the Rotate tool, you have to select it first. You can select it with the regular selection tool. Then you choose the Reflect tool, and as you can see, this icon right here appears. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see it so well because there's lots of these anchor points here. This icon is our axis, so the object will reflect across that axis. Will show how you can move this axis to anywhere else you want the object to reflect across by simply clicking anywhere else, and you can see that changes it over to there. You can also drag it anywhere you want. It doesn't have to be on the object itself. As we can see here, you can have this axis somewhere else. It can be anywhere else on your document. It will just make the reflection a lot further away because it will reflect over that axis. Now, the way the Reflect tool works, it's quite interesting. But the first point you set, that was the axis, like we said, that's actually point A of an invisible line. So you set one point over there, then if you want to reflect over there, you have to make a line right down here. It doesn't have to be exactly, and you set the second point, that's point B, in the next point to close this invisible line. You would want to reflect the object across it. Sounds very complicated. You have point A on the first axis that you set, then you click anywhere else to make point B of the line to reflect the object across that invisible line. So we'll just demonstrate that. So say that was my point A right over there. You can see that axis there, and I want to reflect this across here to this side. So the line would have to be there, and therefore I'll put point B down there, and you'll see it reflects across this line like that. So let's just go over it one more time. It's quite complicated. We've got any object here, and let's just resize this. If you want to reflect it using the Reflect tool, you can choose the Reflect tool. As you can see, the first point of the axis by default is set to the center of the object. You can change it simply by clicking once. Anywhere you click, there'll be point A of this invisible line. I'm not sure why I didn't make it a line instead of two icons, but you click. So say I want to reflect this below, I click the first point A of the line right there. As you can see, the icon of the axis is there, and point B of the line will be there, so that this will be reflected across this line over here. You won't see it point B, but you just click it to make a point B, and presto, it gets reflected across that line. Instead of just pressing for point B, you could also drag for point B. So I set point A, say on top there, and then I just drag anywhere on the object, and you see how it reflects across the first point of the line. So you can choose how much, at what angle to stop there, and you can get it any way you want. If you hold down Shift while doing that, so let's just put our point A down there, sorry, point A, and you hold down Shift while dragging, then it will go only within 45 degrees, so that I can get a straight reflection of that. Same thing will be if you just click once, so you can click anywhere to make point A. Then to make the point B, you can Shift click, and I'll keep the reflection exactly within 45 degree angles, so that you wouldn't have it like the one side going slightly lower than the other. If you want to copy the object, not just to reflect it and change the position of it, you want to copy so that it will be in both places. Once again, say I'm reflecting across this y-axis. By the way, y is vertical and x is horizontal, so this will be y from there to there, and x will be from there to there. So you can press on point A and then alt click, or you can do with Shift as well, so that it will keep within 45 degrees. Then you alt click on point B, that will copy the same element over on the other side. So now you've got these two identical twins there, and they are reflected across this invisible line which we created by point A and point B. So that's how you would reflect any element you want over, say if you want to get exactly across the artboard, you can create a guide or any line. I'm just pressing Control R, Control or Command R to bring up my guides, and then I'm pulling one across here, and I'm aligning the guide to the center with this Align panel. So I know this guide is right in the center. I'm locking it with Control Command 2. Just sorry for all these shortcuts here. Then I'm choosing this reflector, and I'm setting point A across this line, so I know it will be reflected exactly across the center of the artboard. So anywhere there on the guide, that's point A. And then point B with Alt or Option click to make a copy of it while reflect across the bottom part of this guide, so now I can actually see my invisible line. And then you've got these two elements right across the artboard in an exact way. Also, like we said, when you drag, so you can press Alt as well, and that'll copy it just as well when you drag. The same thing will apply there too. So until now we spoke about reflecting over another axis, over a line or across the artboard or something else. How about if I want to reflect the object around its own axis? So I just want to reflect from here to there. You can, like we said, from the properties panel, you can choose that icon over there, and that gives you a quick access to reflect it. Unfortunately, it's not like Photoshop that you can right click and choose transform and reflect or something like that there. There isn't that option here. So to use the reflector to make it reflect over the center, you would have to make this axis be in the center of the object. Now, luckily enough, you won't have to go to find the center of the object and put the axis over there, because the default of the reflector is that the axis is in the center of the object. So even if you selected it and put the axis over there, say, now you want to get it back to the center, you could drag it. Whoops, you can drag the axis to the middle and find the middle over there of the center of the object. Or there is a simpler way. You can go to another tool, let's say the selection tool, deselect the object and reselect it, and then it will go by default to the center of the object. The quick way to do it will be by pressing the Control or Command key. That will temporarily access you the last of the selection tools. Then you can select anywhere on the artboard to deselect it, and select it once again with that selection tool, and you'll see when you leave go, the access point is right at the center of the object. Then you can simply drag anywhere on the artboard in a circular way. So you can drag either the object itself or even outside the object. You just pull and drag and you will reflect the object. It looks like it's just rotating, but it's not really rotating, because as you can see, if you drag a tiny bit, it's reflected there. Then you can hold down Shift so you get it to be within 45-degree angles, and you can let go there and you got it reflected. You can also hold down Alt while reflecting, and then you'll get a copy of that too. There is another option to reflect of its own axis in a quicker way. Using the reflect tool, you can simply select any object, and then you can access the object's panel options. To do that, you can double click on the tool of the reflect tool. You can double click there, or you can just press enter anywhere. You can just press enter anywhere on the screen, or if you want, you can see that reflected of its own axis, just like that. Or if you want, you can alt click anywhere, and that will allow you to reflect it across another axis. So if you double click on the tool or press enter, then that will bring you to the window, but the axis will be in the center of the object. Fine, so here we've got a few quick options. We have a horizontal. By the way, check preview so you can see what you're doing. You have horizontal, that will just make it across the horizontal line, or you can choose vertical, or you can choose any specific angle. You can put it in right there, or you can just use your arrow keys up or down to choose on an exact angle here. You can use Shift and the arrow keys to make it go up or down by 10 degrees. I suppose it's called degrees. Or you can even use this small icon over here, and that will also just do that as well. These two options are for a pattern. So let's just create a pattern. Just choosing here the default pattern, and then you double click to access this window. You can choose to transform the object, so you can change the angle. You can choose to transform only the object, say, and not the pattern, and you can change the angle of the object, or you can choose to transform only the pattern and not the object, and you'll get this pattern turning here. Or otherwise you can check both, and then you can choose copy. That's the same thing as just holding down Alt to Option to copy it while you're doing it, and then you can press OK and you get that newly transformed place. You could also access this window which we just showed now. It's a bit quicker if you, instead of going to that tool, say you're busy with other tools and then you don't want to keep going into that tool, you can right click and choose transform, and then you've got the reflect. You can get to that window just as well, or object, transform, reflect, the same thing. The only thing is that will be only around its center point, and you can't make the axis go across any other side like we showed by alt clicking. If you alt click anywhere, then now open the window and it will reflect it across another axis. As you can see there, I'm reflecting it. So that was quick and simple. If you have many objects here and you want to reflect them, so you can select them all either by dragging a marquee around them all, or by selecting each one and holding down Shift. I think this is a lot quicker. And then you can use the selection tool, the reflect tool, and once again set point A and point B, and it will reflect across those. Now if you want to reflect each one individually, you could of course select each one and reflect it like that, and with Shift, and go on like that till tonight. Or thank goodness, there's a much quicker way. You select them all, go to object transform, and choose here transform each. Then you can just press here reflect X or reflect Y, And as you can see, each one is reflected individually on its own, and it does the job so fast and quickly. You have a few more options here, we can learn about them another time. You can choose a copy just as well, and they've got them reflected over there. Cool thing is you can use actually the text and reflect text just as well. So let's say I've got this text over here, then I can choose the reflect tool and do just the same as I would do with any other tool. I can press Alt or Option to copy it, then I can get this mirror effect. Or otherwise you can actually create a reflection. You create point A there, and with Alt or Option point B over there, then you can create here a mirror effect, bringing them up with Alt, and you can make gradients over it with the appearance panel, I think, no, opacity panel. Put your mask to be able to see it to go gradually, so you can create some cool stuff over there. You could also reflect a anchor point, so you can choose any anchor point, and with the direct selection tool, select any anchor point and then go to the reflect tool. I don't know why it's so useful, but you can try and just reflect that single anchor point. You can let me know if you find it useful in any way. And this is one cool tip which I love using if you want to make a live reflect. So as you're drawing, it gets reflected across the other side of the artboard. Then you need to make any element you want, but it has to be across the whole artboard from one side to another. So you can choose like a long rectangle. I like doing a square or a big rectangle because it reflects across any side. You can just use any line or just anything you want. It has to be from one side to the other. Otherwise, it will just like move as you're doing it. Then you go to your layers panel. If you don't see it, go to Windows and choose layers. And then you must choose the whole layer. So it's just in blue or whichever color the layer may be. That doesn't mean it's selected. You have to select it there with that small icon. Now anything you do will apply to that whole layer. So anything you're going to draw within that layer will get that same effect. Then you go to Effects, on top, Effect, Distort and Transform, and you choose Transform. Then you can choose Reflect across the X-axis or across the Y-axis. Here, I don't know why, but here it's the opposite. So if you choose across the X-axis, normally it should be across that, but here it will be across this axis. And then you can choose one copy so that anything you do will be copied over to the other side, and go OK. So now we are all set. Anything you draw on it now will be reflected across this main axis here. You can now hide this layer, this rectangle, because that was only to apply an effect on something. Then you can start drawing using a paintbrush, a line, anything, the pencil, anything you want. And as you draw, you'll see that it gets reflected across the other side. So you can just draw here anything, you can use any tools you want to, and any color, and everything will be just as well work for everything, as you can see there, and you can get some very cool stuff with it. Also, if you change anything here, so say I change this line, then I'll change also to the other side, so you can see it's so much easier to work with. My tip though is that it does work for both sides, so if I draw here, it will work also on that side too. But I do suggest that you only work on one side. That's my own tip, because you'll get confused which one is the effect, because you can see you can't select this one because this is the effect and this is the real one, and that's the effect. So it's easier, I think, if you use one side for the drawing and the other side for the effect. You could also use a guide or just any line. I'm just bringing my guide with Control Command R, and then you put it right in the center with the alignment panel. You can choose the align to center, and then you know that anything you do there would be reflected up until there. So you can draw from there, from there until there, and it will be reflected over that axis once I give it a stroke. Then of course you can select everything and choose Object, Expand to or expand the variance to make the other side also selectable and to make it a live shape, but then it won't work anymore, your effect. So you can just leave it as well as an effect or also get printed like that. So just to go over what we learned very quickly, if you use the reflect, we said you can use the properties panel. I think that's a bit easier, but otherwise you can always go to the reflect tool and then choose your first point where the object will get reflected across. Naturally it will be in the center, that's the default, but you can click anywhere to change it. Then you can click, it can either be on the object itself or anywhere else. It can be outside there. Then you click point A of the line and you can put reflected over there or there, and the object will get reflected across exactly. If you want to copy it, then you can do the same thing, and for point B, just Alt or Option click, that will reflect it across both sides. To access any of the panel options, then you can double click there on the tool or just press enter anywhere, and I'll bring you all the options here for patterns, or just quick to swap between these or that one. You can also drag, instead of setting point B, you can just drag it across, and once again with Alt to copy that, so you've got those in both places. So that's all. Thank you so much for joining this video. If you gained anything, please give a like and subscribe, and leave any of your comments, ideas, tips, or any suggestions or anything you just want at the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for joining. See you.